What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Miami. This is season 7, episode 4. So this is going to be a voiceover review. Basically, I already uploaded this video. It's currently on private because people were saying that they couldn't understand or hear what I was saying. So there's that. I tried to redo the audio, but it didn't work. So here we are. I know some people get distracted when the mouths don't match up, but I really don't have time to reshoot this video. So this is why we're doing a voiceover. So if this doesn't work for people, then it is what it is. So y'all know sometimes before we get into the review, we get a little spicy, just a little bit. And I have a few things to talk to you guys about. So first up, let's talk about Marisol and Kiki. So Marisol and Kiki did interviews with Page Six, specifically Virtual Reality T. So the first clip I want to play for you guys is Marisol talking about Julia and Gertie.
Those two had the most horrific fight at a very momentous occasion, and they were both wrong. Okay. They were both wrong. And it's very difficult to be in the middle of two friends fighting. I like Gertie. Yeah. I've become closer to Julia, but in that moment, they were both wrong.
So I understand where Marisol is coming from when it comes to this situation to a certain extent. I can see from her point of view, she feels as though both women are wrong, basically because the event was supposed to be a surprise, or was a surprise for her. It was supposed to be a celebration about her and Steve finally getting married legally here in America, and her friends and family, people who are not associated with the show, were invited. But I do wish Marisol would have been like, yes, I feel both of them are wrong, but I also feel like Julia took it too far when she threw that drink at Gertie, because I do remember possibly if it was during Bravo's Fan Fest or maybe Kathy Hilton's like Christmas party or whatever, Alexia and Marisol were on the red carpet and they were asked about the situation between Gertie and Julia, and they both stated that they did not like what Julia did. They were like, it was too much, okay? So I wish she would have been more like specific and been like, yeah. So on the screen right now is going to be the article that I was talking about. I'll also put the link in the description box below. But I also don't want people to start faking how they feel based off of fans, because if that's really how Marisol felt, then I want her to authentically say that and mean it, you know? But I do feel as though they not both wrong. Okay. So moving on, let's talk about Kiki. So Kiki also did an interview with Virtual Reality T, and this is what she said when she was questioned about Julia and Gertie.
What were your thoughts on, because after the water was thrown, I feel that's when Gertie was like, well, you got a facelift when Martina was at an operation, so you really want my support during all that moment.
Well,
because I didn't know Julia got a... Was that...
I didn't know she got... If she did get a facelift, it looks amazing. You would never be able to tell.
My only take on that is, a lot of the time, as a group of women, I know we go low, we argue, but sometimes it's like, I'm never okay when it comes to medical issue. Just like with last year with Larsa bringing Gertie's cancer thing to us without Gertie's approval. I don't think it was appropriate. I just never feel like if I get my boobs done and it's between the girls and other people don't know, especially if the girls don't know and my close friend knows, I wouldn't want that to just come out in public like that. But again, it happened. I'm just hoping that they both can find a common ground.
Yeah.
And just talk about it.
After hearing both their sides, and because you're friends with both of them, what do you think the issue was? What was the main thing that resulted in such chaos?
To be honest, I really think it's just, I feel like, I hear both sides. I think it's just a big misunderstanding, and when it gets to a place where both people, it's so much ego, everybody want to prove that they're right, instead of sitting and be like, you know what, as women, let's just sit and figure it out what the problem was.
So here's the thing. I'm not going to admonish Kiki. And if you're watching Love Island, then you probably would understand my reasoning for this is because for the past like 4 days, I have been seeing people be outwardly and violently anti-black, colorist, xenophobic, and just plain old racist. And I've said this once and I'll say it again. There is ways that you can critique people, especially if you don't like them, without having to grab the isms. If you got to start putting isms in there, then honestly, that is how you feel, and you need to reevaluate yourself. I do understand people being frustrated with Kiki, people being angry and irritated, because as a black woman myself, a lot of us feel like there should be some like unspoken camaraderie between us because we have to navigate through the world as black women. But I'm also the type of person that believes that just because somebody is black does not mean I have to be friends with them. But I do think it is kind of like, with Kiki, because it's like, girl, you know what Julia did was wrong. It doesn't have anything to do with ego. But I'm also wondering, is Julia showing them other stuff? Is she lying and contorting the narrative? Which she is, because we saw her this episode, but is she doing it a lot worse to the women? And I don't think we're going to start seeing them draw like distinctive lines in the sand until it gets closer to the time of the reunion or even at the reunion. Because I think right now everyone's trying to maintain neutrality because people are still like, well, we all still should be friends and we all still need to be friends. But I think with the added effect of like the season going on and the women seeing how Julia lied and behaved, as well as the way that fans are reacting to this season, we'll probably see a lot of them change their opinions. Or maybe be more vocal with like, yes, I'm friends with Julia. Yes, I'm friends with Gertie. And Julia was effed up for what she did. So continuing on, let's talk about Lisa. So after the episode aired, Lisa got on Instagram, and I don't know if this was an Insta story or if this is a video that she posted to her actual Instagram, but basically she called out Larsa. Now I'm going to play the clip for you guys, but I definitely sped it up because I felt like she was taking too long to get to her point. So let's get into it.
Hi guys, I had to just get on here because there are so many lies I have to correct. And I have to set the record straight. Larsa keeps saying that we were best friends for 15 years, and that is not true. We would see each other at events, but we didn't actually become friends until 4 years ago, right before the reboot. That's when we started talking and texting, and that is how our friendship began. We became friends because of the show. We bonded through that experience just like Marcus and Jody did. So tell me how she is mad at Jody for the exact same thing. This show, like, literally creates friendships, but calling yourself a good friend over and over does not make it true. Good people don't have to announce it. When has she ever really shown that she was a good friend? Like through her words, her actions, her empathy? None of it. Look how she reacted when Nicole joined the show. Look at her reaction to Gertie's cancer diagnosis. Her idea of a friendship was showing up to a court hearing for me that she was subpoenaed to be at. So that is not being a friend. That's literally following a court order. And then Jody in Milan, and her telling people that Jody went crazy, like literally went crazy, at an off-camera Philip Plein dinner and disrespected her. There were more than 80 people there and nobody saw it. How convenient, no cameras. I'm pretty sure Philip Plein has security footage, so let's pull it. But you know what? It would prove nothing because it didn't happen. Also, let's look at who Jody is. He doesn't raise his voice, not to me, not to his daughter, not to my kids, not to anyone, not even his ex-wife. And she would tell you that. But Larsa is literally known for provoking people, yelling. She started that moment in Milan. She created that drama. This wasn't real. It was manufactured to fit her storyline. She's done it before. She'll do it again. So tune in next week as the Lysa Pippin tour continues. Good night.
So when it comes to Lisa versus Larsa, I'm tired of it. I really am. And like I said on my thumbnail, I need them to wrap this up by like episode 6. What I will say is I don't think it's wrong for Lisa to defend herself, especially if Larsa is lying about the things that she is saying. And even though I like Larsa, I know she a gutter snipe. I don't mind when people call people out if they do them dirty. And if Larsa is lying about Jody's behavior, then I think Lisa has every right to call her out. I would rather Lisa say something than Jody, because the way the housewife fandom is set up, men are to be seen and not heard. Okay? But I'm also getting to the point with Lisa where I feel like she's protesting too much, because we had her come out about the whole AC thing, and I was like, girl, don't nobody believe you about that. I know I don't. Then we had her, trying to refute the picture that was shown by Larsa in production, and now we have this video. But I've also seen a lot of people say, because I don't really look at the hashtag anymore when I watch reality shows. I normally just look at my mutuals on my timeline, but I've seen a lot of people say that Lisa and Julia are definitely all up and through the hashtag for Real Housewives of Miami on, I think, Twitter and possibly Instagram. And I'm just like, that can be a double-edged sword. Like, yes, it can help with getting favor from the fans, but it can also turn people off because they start to feel like, why are you constantly speaking out about the edit or about what is shown? And I don't think Lisa is prepared for, if it does seem to be true that Jody is controlling, she doesn't know what production has. She doesn't know what production will show in favor of proving that narrative, if in fact it is true. So if I was her, I would kind of like, I guess, lessen how much I come out and wait until the reunion and lay everything on the table. And one thing I don't like about this video is Lisa trying to downplay Larsa going to court for her. Like, she didn't have to. And I do believe Lisa when she says that, they've only been friends for 4 years, but they've known each other for 15 years. Because we know Larsa was in Calabasas with the Kardashians. But I feel like, girl, don't downplay the fact that your friend helped you out when you needed help. Because even if Larsa was subpoenaed, that doesn't mean she could have spoke kindly on your behalf. She could have just said things to gain Lenny more favor in the eyes of the courts. But I do understand Lisa being angry with Larsa, but I'm not the type of person, unless we fall out and you do something egregious to me, I'm not going to not give you your props for helping me when I needed help. So I don't know. I do think the reunion is going to be interesting because I feel like Lisa's ready and I know Larsa is. So let's talk about these taglines. So to me, Alexia and Gertie had middle of the road taglines. I thought they were cute. So Gertie's goes, I am a fierce fighter and an even stronger survivor. I like it, but I just don't want Gertie to be pigeonholed into being the cancer survivor. I don't want them to constantly focus in on that. I'm hoping when we get season 8, she's back to doing the Gertie thing. We see her doing fabulous events. I would love to see Gertie having her own reality show where she is just showing us how she sets up events. The lady was featured in Vogue. She's more than just a cancer survivor. So it got middle of the road for me. Then there's Alexia. Alexia, I put but I thought it was kind of cute. It says, I may be a Cuban doll, but I'm no one's toy. That's a lie. That is a lie. Because Alexia, you let Todd play with you constantly. Constantly, ma'am. And I don't know what it's going to take for you to wake up. I really don't. Because he already embarrassed you enough for I think another woman to be like, yeah, I'm done with him. Then we have Stephanie and Larsa. They had the best ones to me. Stephanie's is, I don't just sell luxury, I live it. I said, come on, Stephanie. Come on. I said, lifestyles of the rich and famous. This is what I want. Okay, this is what I want from my housewives. Luxury. She said, girl, I live luxury. Don't have to tell me twice. Okay. Then we have Larsa's. Larsa says, it's hard to get on my bad side because I don't have one. I said, okay. That's cute. That's actually really cute to me. I would say that Stephanie is my number 1 and Larsa is my second, okay? And then the 2 that I did not like were Lisa's and Julia's. Lisa's goes, I may not be prompt, but I'm worth the wait. I feel like they could have gave her a better tagline because I do know that they will record a bunch of taglines, and that's because Melissa Gorga came out when a lot of people were saying her tagline for one of the seasons of The Real Housewives of New Jersey's sucked. And she said, she was like, girl, I didn't get to pick it, y'all. Like, I wasn't able to pick the tagline I wanted. So I just feel like y'all could have gave her something better. Like, you know? And then lastly is Julia's. So now we have Julia's, and hers goes, my chicken coop is full, and now so is my house. You can tell that she thought her adopting them kids was going to make her endearing to the public. But it has done the reverse. Because, girl, you full of it, Julia. You full of chicken poop. So let's get into the review. So I'll say this. I normally pride myself on being someone who does not take reality TV too seriously. Mainly because I do understand this is an edited story, that these are people sometimes playing up characters of themselves, and there is a storyline that is being curated for us for entertainment. But I'm going to be honest, watching people for like the past 4 or 5 days be so violently racist, colorist, anti-Black, and just xenophobic towards Shelly and Alondria on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, I did not have it to do when I watched this episode of Real Housewives of Miami, especially with Julia. Maybe if things were spaced out, I wouldn't be so pissed. But when I tell you Julia pissed me off, bro, Julia pissed me off because she is the textbook definition of a Karen. The way that she took no accountability and victimized herself was so beyond me, bro. And it pissed me off. Like, it pissed me off so badly. So I'm going to try my best not to get irritated. So the episode opens up and Julia is at opera practice. Mind you, she sounds like a cat is being strangled in her throat. And I'm not just saying that because I don't like her. I've never thought Julia had a pretty singing voice, opera or no opera. I thought what she did with Martina or for Martina last season was cute, but this, no ma'am. So the instructor can tell that something's wrong. And so he asked her, like, what's up? She was like, this person who's supposed to be my friend spoke so negatively about my dreams and about, my family. And, water got everywhere. No, water did not get everywhere. You threw water on Gertie because you wanted her to stop talking. And so she tells the instructor, I just wanted it all to stop. And I'm like, if you wanted it to stop, you use your words. You are like 53 years old. Throwing water at somebody is not like, there's no excuse. And you could tell Julia feels bad because she's so emotional because she knows she messed up because that was so wrong of her to do. So while Julia's at opera practice, we give a montage of Gertie going to speak to Alexia, Kiki, and Adriana. She tells Alexia, girl, she aggressed me. She tells Kiki she's lying about the cruise. Like, what she's saying happened did not happen. Like, she's blatantly lying and twisting the narrative. Then we actually see her speak to Adriana, and Adriana says that she feels as though Julia went to the dark side. I wish Adriana would stop trying to act like Julia is not an able-bodied adult. And even though Julia is now friends with Marisol and Alexia, what she is doing is on her own accord. Alexia and Marisol don't have mind powers. She's not a puppet. They can't control her. She's doing this off her own accord. And it is what it is. It is what it is. Like, she is a clown. She's a loser. And nothing, and she even proved it more so after this, based off of how she reacted and behaved after what she did to Gertie. So the instructor tells her, singing is basically pretty screaming and it can be therapeutic. So scream it out, get it out. So she says she feels much better and she felt as though this session at the opera, house or whatever with her coach was very therapeutic for her. The next scene we see is Gertie at her house and they're putting up Halloween decorations. Mind you, I didn't like the decorations too much, but it was nice to see her smiling. I do like Halloween. So it's becoming one of my favorite holidays. And we see Russell bring the boys in. It looks like he picked them up from school. The oldest son looks irritated. Like, he's looking around the house being like, what is all of this? like what is all of this? The youngest son, I think his name is Liam, is excited, and Gertie was like, he loves Halloween, and so she's ecstatic. Like, she's just like, this feels good to do this for my family, to start decorating again, because the past couple of days she's been distraught ever since what happened at Marisol's party. We then have her and Russell like sitting down, and she was like, so what do you think like about the house? Like, isn't it good that I'm in a better space and things of that nature? And he's like, yeah, I am happy. But you can tell that Russell is pissed because when they start talking about what happened, the way he was like looking, you could tell that when Russell gets angry, he means business. Like when Russell gets serious, he's serious, okay? And you play with his girl, his Gertie. So he's just like, what went down is uncalled for. Like it didn't need to happen, So we then see this scene of Martina and Julia. They're at this grocery store trying to pick up a few items. While they're there, Julia is talking about how badly she feels of hurting Marisol. She's more ashamed and embarrassed of her actions because they affected Marisol, not the person that she accosted, which is Gertie. So she's like, I definitely have to find a way to like make amends with Marisol. Like I have to figure out a way to make it right with her. So then we see Julia in the confessional, and she is basically saying that she can't believe that she allowed Gertie to push her to that point to where she acted out of character. And I'm like, the girl didn't do anything to you, Julia, for you to be acting unhinged and erratic. Took no accountability and then proceeded to victimize herself the rest of this scene. We actually see her go meet up with Marisol and Alexia in a flashback. And what's wild to me is like, you're doing all of this to gain favor with the popular girls, but it backfired. So Julia's talking to them, saying how much she's so sorry. And Marisol and Alexia are like, they didn't like what she did. She also tells them that she sent a text message to Gertie, but Gertie didn't respond. And I'm glad she didn't, because you don't deserve it. You don't. Like, when you do something like that to somebody, a text message apology is not enough. You need to like legit apologize to somebody face to face in their presence. Because are you serious? Are you serious? So then she goes on to victimize herself about the facelift situation, where she's like, I can't believe Gertie would bring up me going to see my daughter. And you being in New York. Martina's like, well, Gertie doesn't know that I would have been fine by myself, but now you see how she is. And I'm like, what do you mean by that, Martina? What do you mean by that? All right, y'all. So the audio might be different. Well, not might be, it is different. I don't have my mic hooked up to my iPad because that's how I record. The mic overheated. Either I need to get a new mic or I need to get a new iPad. Either way, something new has to come. But I think I left off with Martina, Julia, and Russell and Gertie. I don't like how it seems like Martina was trying to insinuate like Gertie was like some malicious person by throwing the facelift thing in Julia's face. Because I'm like, did your wife tell you that she threw a drink on her? Because after that, all bets are off. I'm gonna call you everything but a child of God. You throw something on me. Okay. But also, I ain't never liked Martina nor Julia since season 4. Because I don't care that she's a tennis legend. Because if it's not Serena, but Serena, Venus, Coco, or Naomi, I don't care about you. Okay. Don't care. So we get back to Gertie. Gertie's having a full-on breakdown. And I mean a full-on breakdown. Like, she's breaking down in the confessional. She's breaking down, talking to Russell about what happened. In the confessional, she's saying, like, she was sick to her stomach. Like, she never has felt this way before. Like, to have somebody dehumanize her in such a way, it just makes her feel disgusted and violated. Then, while she's talking to Russell, she's crying. And she's just like, it just feels so high school-ish, like junior high, like middle school. Like, girl... Like, I like, she basically embarrassed me and humiliated me in front of a group of women just for their entertainment. Like, I just feel gross. But I love the fact that Russell pointed out, one, you're recovering from cancer. So how dare you, when your wife's been hit with cancer, not once, but twice, and you accost her? Number two, your big ogre ass was standing over her, pointing at her very aggressively, because they love to paint black women out as this. But I ain't heard nobody say that Julia wasn't being aggressive. Standing over Kiki and Gertie. And I love that Russell pointed it out. And do you know how badly you have to mess up for the cis, hetero, white Christian man to say, like, girl, that's a mess? That was disgusting. That was wrong. And you're supposed to be this progressive lesbian couple. But then again, I can't say progressive because there's gays for Trump. So I just, you know how this, like, you really messed up. Really messed up when the white man is on the right side of history. Yeah. So Russell was over it. I said, Russell, you should have been there. Because I know for a fact, if Russell were there, he would have shut it down for his wife, because he rides for Gertie. Okay, so Gertie is like, she just wants to move on, like, from it, because she's just like, We're going to have to dead this conversation because she's really working herself up. So then you have Julia basically saying that, I'm going to do something because I don't like when people are left out. I'm going to invite her to my baby shower that Adriana is throwing for me. But hopefully Gertie, if she can control herself, you're the one that can't control yourself. You assaulted somebody. Because in some states, throwing water on somebody in an aggressive manner is assault. Can your 50-year-old ass control yourself? Okay. So we see her call Adriana. She lets Adriana know everybody's invited. I was surprised to find out that Martina got children because she sure don't talk about her. So, okay. So we finally meet Miss Stephanie, and I think I'm going to like Stephanie, okay? I think I am. So we see her and Larsa pull up to this private jet. She tells Larsa, girl, take your shoes off because you're not going to be scuffing the floors in the jet. So she was like, do you want like slippers or do you want socks? And Larsa was like, oh, I'll take the socks. So they sit down and it's real cute. Larsa says she ended up getting to know Stephanie through Caroline Stanberry from Real Housewives of Dubai. And she was like, it was love at first sight. Stephanie said, girl, I did not want to meet her. Stephanie was like, I didn't want to meet her. I'm in the south of France with my husband. We on yachts and stuff. And I'm just like, girl, why are you adding me to a group chat? Which I'm going to be honest, I understand where Stephanie's coming from. Being added to a group chat that you didn't want to be added to is so aggravating. It really is. But she was like, after talking to her, I actually realized, oh, I do like Larsa. I really do. So they're sitting on the plane and we find out that they're going to Orlando to go pick up her dog. So I guess that's where her family lives. Because I was like, girl, where y'all going? She was like, we're taking an hour flight to Orlando. And so Larsa says, I don't know who does this because I was told we was going to the mall. We was going shopping. But she said, girl, let's get on this PJ. And I said, okay. So while they're on the jet, we're getting a little bit more about Stephanie's life. So her husband owns, I think it's Shoma. It's like a Shoma luxury group where they, I guess, create like luxury apartments. They also do like luxury events and things of that nature. Her husband is 24 years older than her. We find out later on in the episode when there's a meetup with the ladies and Stephanie again that she met her husband when she was 26 at a Miami Heat game and he was 50 at the time. And she was very hesitant to like, get with him because she's just like, I don't want people to assume that like my wealth comes from him because I work real hard and I know what they say about the young girls with the old men. But being with him has changed how she, views that. Now, I don't want to say his name only because I need to hear it one more time because I thought it was Musan or Musan, but I feel like that's not how you say that man's name, But yeah, she's just like, I love my husband. I love my life. And that's how it's going to be. She was like, I wake up wanting to be wealthy. That's what I manifested it. So they're on the private jet. They're flying. Stephanie ends up asking Larsa, so how is Lisa? Like, how are you and Lisa? And they flash back to when Lisa kicked Larsa out of the house. And Larsa was like, I don't even want to talk about her. Like, we not in a good place. I don't want to talk about her. So while they're sitting there, they also talk about what happened with Gertie and Julia. And Larsa was like, girl, Julia baptized Gertie. And then Stephanie was like, oh, I want to get baptized too. And Larsa was like, no, girl. Like, she threw water on her. And Stephanie was like, what? And I feel like the wheels in her head were turning where she was like, girl, what did I get myself into? Y'all throwing water on each other? Is it that deep? So they finally get to Orlando and we see her parents and they're dropping off her dogs. I said, okay, girl. But I do think Miami is Miami in the middle or at the end of, at the tip of Florida? Let's see. How far is Miami from Orlando, Florida? Okay, so driving is 3 hours and 25 minutes. So I can understand why they took a flight. I get it. Ain't nobody want to drive that many 3 hours for their dogs. As much as you love them, don't nobody want to drive that. So Larsa meets the parents and it's cute. While what's her name? Stephanie is getting her dogs. Larsa gets a phone call from Marisol. And Larsa's just kind of like, so what's up? And Marisol's like, girl, where argue. She said, girl, Stephanie said we were going to go run errands. I'm on a private jet and we are in Orlando so she could pick up her dogs. And Marisol was like, you got on the jet before me? Tragic. But she was like, I need to tell you something about Alexia. She dropped a bomb on me. And Larsa's like, what? So then they flash to a scene where it happened 4 hours before the plane ride, where Alexia and Larsa were at the house, or I think they were at Marisol's house together. And Alexia basically admits to Marisol that her and Todd extended the divorce because neither one of them want to like make a decision. And like Marisol said, he wants you to make a decision. And I'm like, I would have made the decision. We would have got a divorce. You're not gonna be playing with my feelings like this. But Alexia's like, we still love each other. Like, we don't want a divorce. And I'm like, he filed the papers, Alexia. Even if he doesn't want a divorce, he's playing with your emotions, which is really manipulative and messed up. And you still want to be with him, girl. You got to get that mind right. And I need you to go to therapy because you got some things to unpack. Because you know, no, we too old, too grown for this. Too grown. So Larsa is like, are you serious? Like, she really extended the divorce? And she was like, yeah. And she's like, girl, that's a mess. So then the producers end up asking Marisol, what is going to change Alexia from like getting her mind? And she was like, dick, new dick. So we see Marisol, Alexia go over to Lisa's house to check up on her because it's been almost a week since she buried her father. Lisa's like, girl, what happened at the wedding? Because I heard it went down. And so she was like, did something happen with Alexia? Did something happen? Like, did she bring Todd? And Marisol's like, no, but let's talk about what happened at the event when Alexia gets there. So Alexia gets there and they basically tell her, you know, Larsa was talking about what happened in Milan. And then she said that Jody got really angry at you two, that you were defending her and like telling him to chill out. Lisa says that Larsa is lying, that that's not what happened. And she's actually like really pissed because she's like, while I'm burying my father, you're talking trash about me. But then we have another scene of Larsa talking to the guy, Jack, that we saw in Milan, who's supposed to be the brand ambassador, who was like, you know, he's confirming what Larsa is saying, that Jody did act out of character, that it was a lie, because he ends up saying, I literally had to tell him you can't speak to women like that. So honestly, I'm gonna reserve how I feel, because I feel like the truth is in the middle. I do think Larsa was wrong for speaking on Lisa, knowing that she just lost her father, as well as like she wasn't there to defend herself. But then again, I do understand where people are like, girl, just because somebody dies doesn't mean the world stops. I know when my grandmother passed away almost 4 years ago, I thought the world would stop, but it didn't. Life continues on. So just because someone passes away doesn't mean people they're not still angry with you. But time and place, and that wasn't the place for Larsa to be speaking about Jody and Lisa. But if it is true, like the guy is saying, then maybe it really did happen. Because I'm gonna be honest, you can't tell me that Lisa didn't know that Lenny was a trash person and she wasn't protecting him. And I don't really think Lisa has learned anything from not being with Lenny. So I could definitely see her protecting Jody if he in fact does act erratically and does act the way he does. Okay? So the guy is like, yeah, he was doing too much. So then Larsa ends up saying that she feels like he's controlling her. So then it flips back to Marisol and Alexia telling Lisa she feels like Jody is controlling you. And she's like, in what way? She also brings up how, you know, like his eyes, like the whole thing about his eyes being bugged out. She compares him to a Furby. Furbies are from the pits of hell. Them things are creepy as hell. That was not a good comparison. Not a good comparison. Them things are... And I just saw an abomination. Y'all, it is a long Furby. Made my skin crawl. I said, girl, you couldn't say like he has teddy bear eyes or something. I don't know. So then it flips back to Larsa, where Larsa is like, he's on all her business meetings. Like, it's definitely giving opportunists. So then Larsa says that Lisa needs to be worried about her life and herself, not worry about Jody. But I'm like, it's sweet coming from you and very comical when that's how you were with Marcus. Like, the interesting thing is Larsa and Lisa are basically the same person. It's just like at a different level. Larsa is not gonna not get a bag. She's not gonna not be able to take care of herself and her kids, whereas Lisa is totally dependent on a man. But at the end of the day, they're both pick me and very male-centered. And that's just what it is. As the conversation is continuing, is getting even more pissed off and frustrated, where she's like, this lady has attacked this about me, about this, about that. And honestly, I sent her a picture, and she ends up sending Lisa ends up sending Larsa a picture of the daddy in the casket. I said, ooh, girl. The way I would have cussed Lisa out, because then Marisol was like, oh my God, no. But I would have cussed Lisa out, like, because I don't like when people do that. Do not be posting your loved ones in their casket. I don't want to see that. Keep that in the private family group chat, because a girl did that in high school. Y'all, and this is no hyperbole or exaggeration. This girl posted her dying grandmother in the hospital bed. When I tell you that lady looked like a corpse, she looked like a corpse. It was actually very scary and very jarring. Like, she looked like, if I can find the picture of what I'm thinking of, I'm gonna post it for y'all. But she looked like this thing I saw in the movie. She looked bad. It was actually terrifying. And she got mad at us because people were like, you need to take this down. Because nobody wants to see your grandma in bed in the hospital like that. Girl, what? So I'd have cussed Lisa out if I was Larsa. But I mean, she made a point. She made a statement. She said, girl, my father has died. What are you doing? And so Lisa ends up saying, like, Larsa doesn't get to cuss me out and then be like, I'm praying for you. That's also true. That's also true. So next we get this scene of Kiki and her daughter Summer going to the airport to pick up her father. We find out that when she got kicked out of the house, she stopped speaking to her dad. She said it took at least 10 years for her to actually want to speak to him now. And he isn't really like an active like grandfather, to be honest, but she looks just like him. I thought Kiki looked like her mom, but no, she looks like her dad. They pick up the father. I thought it was cute when she was explaining to Summer, her daughter, that they were going to the airport, and she was like, I want to go, are we gonna go somewhere? Like, I want to go, she was like, where do you want to go? She was like, I want to go somewhere and dance. Like, I want to go to a party. And Kiki was like, why do you always want a party? She was like, because I want to dance. And I said, let Summer be a dancer, okay? And so she was like, I like to dance. They pick up the father. We find out that the daddy got like a 3-year-old son, so a year younger than Summer, because Summer is 4, back in Haiti. And so Kiki ends up asking, so how many siblings do I have now? And he was like 7. I said, golly, sir. Golly. And then Kiki was like, that's not normal, Dad. She also lets him know she doesn't like the way how he has treated her son. Her son is now in college, and the dad was like, for real? And I'm like, you don't even know that your grandson is in college? He was like, well, I need to see him. You can keep in touch with him even if you want to stay in Haiti, because Kiki was like, oh, you need to stay here longer. And he was like, no, I got things to attend to, which is his son. But I'm like, you have grandchildren, sir. And like Kiki said, you should be worrying about your grandkids, to cultivate relationships with your grandkids, not having more kids. And Kiki was like, yeah. She was like, you shouldn't be doing that. And he was like, well, just for that, I'm going to have some more. I said, I said, Kiki, you might want to leave your daddy where he at. Because some people don't deserve, like, grace. Some people don't deserve, like, I think, like, to a certain extent, I think everyone has to forgive. And what I mean by that, that doesn't mean that you forgive the people and it washes away their transgressions like Jesus, but it means that you relinquish your anger and those feelings towards that. But like, some people don't deserve a redemption arc. And like, the daddy not being willing to like really cultivate relationships with his grandchildren, with Kiki, and continue to have other kids just shows that he's not worth having a redemption arc. And she shouldn't have to like bend herself into a pretzel to like make the relationship work when he's doing the bare, like not even the bare minimum. He's not even trying. Not even trying. So the next scene we have is of Julia, Marisol, Alexia was supposed to come, but she didn't show up. Stephanie and Larsa. At first, they were trying to tell Julia that Stephanie doesn't like animals. Stephanie gagged both Marisol and Larsa because we find out that she is Colombian. She spent like, I think, a month out of each summer to go like stay in Colombia with her grandparents. She talks about sticking her finger in the chickens' butts to see if they had eggs, castrating the animals and eating the testicles and stuff. So she's just like, yeah, no, I like animals. I thought it was funny when Larsa tried to move her Birkin and she said, put the Birkin right beside me. But I also do like the fact that Stephanie is very much she knows what she wants. Like, she doesn't want to have children. She likes the life that she has with her husband. She said Boogers and Birkins don't go, and I love that, okay? Like, she's very, like, I like that she's assured of herself, Like, and maybe that's just, like, a little bit of, like, envy in the sense of, like, I don't know if I want to have kids or not. I don't know if I could ever be that type of person that's, like, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But it's like I go back and forth where I do admire those who are very much like, I don't want kids. I'm done. Like, ain't no arguing about it. I don't want them. Okay. I don't want that experience a part of life. But I also respect those who are like, no, I do want kids. I want that to be my experience. I'm in the middle. I don't know if I want them. On a good day, I might say yes. On a bad day, girl, F them kids. Okay. So Julia and Stephanie are bonding with that. We actually see a montage of Stephanie at her company working. She talks about how, like, at one point I thought about freezing my eggs, but then when I looked at my schedule, girl, I didn't even have time in my schedule to go do it. So she said, you know what? We don't need them. We don't need them. Okay. So they then are like, where's Alexia? And Stephanie even points out, she said one of her biggest pet peeves is like people not being on time. She was like, I don't like it. Like, if you're not going to be on time, don't come around me. And Marisol was like, no, that's not like her. Like, she normally is always on time. Like, something has to be up. So she tries to call Alexia. Larsa is like, girl, I bet you she with Todd. She probably getting something from Todd. And Julia and Marisol is like, girl, please don't say that. You're going to piss me off. And Alexia's not picking up. She then texts Marisol saying that she had a migraine and that her head was hurting and that she just needed some time to herself. And Marisol was like, yeah, she's with Todd. and she gets instantly annoyed. So the last scene we have is the ladies going to Martina and Julia's baby shower. So Adriana did a nice job. Like, they had these blue drinks for the girls to drink. It was kind of awkward between a few of the girls. Alexia had to tell Adriana about how, girl, it's your fault I'm going through what I'm going through. Now, she didn't say that, but Marisol was just like, girl, did you really have like a headache? And she was like, yes, girl, it's been very stressful dealing with life. And Adriana is standing beside Alexia. And Alexia was like, and you kind of have contributed to that. And they flashed back to when Adriana was talking about last year how the word on the street was that Todd and Alexia were dealing with financial problems. And Alexia was like, I'm not saying it's Adriana's fault that me and Todd are getting a divorce, but spreading rumors and lies about people, it also don't help. Okay. But it was just the way that she was like, and you contributed to my stress. And Adriana just is looking at her. We then see Stephanie pull up, and Stephanie, girl, she had a Larsa moment. That's probably why Stephanie and Larsa are friends, because Stephanie was like, Alexia, can I tell you something? And I hope you don't get offended, but when God takes trash out of your life, you're not supposed to bring it back in. And she's talking about Todd. And I said, oh, Alexia's going to be pissed. And the way Alexia looked at her, I said, oh, she don't like that. Alexia is not going to like that. And she is you are on her list, Stephanie. You are on her list. And mind you, Stephanie, that's an inside thought. You don't know that lady. So I agree with Alexia when she says, I'm actually offended that she would say that about my husband. That man is not your husband. He's your soon-to-be ex-husband. Alexia, soon to be ex-husband. But I do understand her being like, we don't know each other like that for you to say that about my man. Okay? Ex-husband or not. And I was like, yes, Stephanie, you don't know her like that to say that. But I said, I kind of liked it. It was messy and she was wrong, but I kind of liked it. Okay? So then Lisa and Stephanie see each other. They greet one another. And then we see Martina and Julia get there. Girl, their outfits were ugly. I have been to multiple baby showers, okay? And I've seen same-sex couples baby showers. I was like, y'all couldn't even dress in the same color? Y'all couldn't. I've seen lesbians have a baby shower and they both studded out in the, not even studded, and that was not on purpose. They're both like in the same outfits. I've seen gay men have like the same thing that Julia and Martina are having, like a baby shower, but it's like an adoption shower, and they're wearing the same outfit or similar to it. Girl, heterosexual couples do it all the time. I was like, girl, no cohesion. No cohesion. Then we have this moment where Adriana wants to do a speech. That's when we find out that the two boys are black. I think one child is like 1 and the other one might be 3 or something like that. And I said, I don't know how I feel. Well, I do know how I feel about Julia and Martina having them black kids, because the way that they're treating Gertie, I don't like it. And I really do hope they give those children love and security, but also care about their mental well-being. Because having parents who are racially insensitive, I wouldn't wish that on nobody. Or who actively hate your existence, but think you're the special one because you're theirs. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So I hope they do right by them kids. I really do. Because the behavior that both of them are exhibiting on this show, I don't know if I trust them. I don't know. Okay. So after Adriana gives her speech, next thing you know, you see Alexia be like, can I say something? And even Marisol was like, oh, girl, where's this going? So then they start fighting over like how long, who has known Julia, who's more important, you know. I think Alexia says, I've been knowing you for 4 years. And then Adriana takes the mic and she's like, I've known you for 10. Also, Adriana's starting to get tired of Julia, because when Adriana did the seating chart for where the people to sit, Julia said, oh, sit me beside Stephanie. And Adriana was like, no, because I'm your best friend. Why would you not have me sitting next to you? I said, girl, that should have been your writing on the wall. When y'all didn't talk throughout the off season, when y'all weren't filming, and then now she is leaning more to the newbie, Adriana should have known that, like, yeah, Julia has switched up, you know? So it was awkward. It was awkward. You have, Marisol being like bridesmaids, like who's trying to give the best toast. Oh, you can tell that Lisa is uncomfortable at the baby shower. Like, she's not in a good place with Larsa. It seems like most of the girls are kind of cool with Larsa, because there was this awkward moment where Alexia is telling Stephanie, oh, I'm sorry that I couldn't go to cocktails with y'all. And then what's her name? Lisa was like, well, why wasn't I invited? And Marisol basically was like, we didn't know if you'd be okay because Larsa was there. And I guess Lisa was like, oh, because I'm like, girl, Lisa, you're not friends with Stephanie like that. It seems like Stephanie and Larsa actually have a relationship. So it's like, I don't think they're picking favorites, but it would only make sense for them to have Larsa around over you, because it doesn't even seem like Stephanie or Lisa even really like slightly know each other like that. I think they follow each other, but they don't know each other. So Lisa, you can tell, is uncomfortable. She's going to the bathroom and she's just like, this is a lot. She almost like threw up because they were playing this one game where it was like beans and like different like food and diapers, and they had to guess what it was. Kiki ended up winning. They play this game like Truth or Dare, and I really wasn't paying attention, really. They talked about threesomes. Then they had this one where Larsa picked out of a bucket, and it was like, what is something that you feel like you overly do? And she said, being too loyal to people. And Lisa's like, wow, okay, so we're just going to do this? So then Kiki twerked, because that was one of the questions, like, get up and twerk. And then Lisa, you could tell, is trying to compensate by drinking, because she was like, Stephanie, like, okay, so like I saw you online and I saw, she's really rich. Like, she has a private jet, she has this, she has Birkins, I have to be friends with her. So Stephanie is kind of like, so are you my friend because you want to be my friend, or are you my friend because of the things that I have? And I think Lisa was trying to be funny, but it came out very cringy and like off-putting, because if someone said that to me, I would be like, Stephanie, like, do you want to be friends with me because I got money, or do you want to be friends with me because you like me as a person? So then she ended up asking Kiki, do I sound drunk? Like, do you think I'm drunk? And Kiki was like, yeah, you are a little tipsy. She was like, can you go to the bathroom with me? So they go to the bathroom together, and Lisa is just talking about how, like, it's uncomfortable. You know, I got to deal with Larsa and the things that she said about me and what I'm dealing with. I just, like, recently buried my father. It's a lot. So then Stephanie ends up asking Larsa, like, how do you feel? And Larsa's like, it is a lot. Like, I'm surprised that someone even told her what was said at the party. And I'm like, girl, Larsa, don't make it seem like Gertie is wrong for telling Lisa when you were talking about her. Like, you knew eventually somebody was going to say something. And I think it was the right thing to do for Gertie to tell Lisa. Because it's like, then she would have came to this event blindsided at the fact that you was flapping them gums. And honestly, I think Marisol and Alexia were going to tell her either way, because Alexia ends up saying, like, well, girl, like the last scene they had, like, yeah, Larsa was talking bad about you. So she was going to find out either way. So she comes back to the table and Lisa's like, are y'all talking about me? And they were like, no. You hear Adriana being like, y'all, can y'all not bring this? Like, can we not do this? Like, I wanted this event to be peaceful and in a fun time. Let's not rehash what happened. So then Julia decides, like, well, it's the elephant in the room. Let's talk about it. And I honestly believe Julia did that because she knew that Gertie was probably the one that told Lisa, and she wanted everyone to feel some type of way about it. Because even Kiki was like, why are you doing this at your own event? So then now they're all going around the table like Clue, being like, who did it? Did you say something? Did you say something? So then Kiki said, honestly, I thought Marisol did it to begin with. And Marisol said, why would I say something? And they were like, Adriana, did you do it? And Adriana was like, girl, I wasn't even there. So what are y'all talking about? So then Kiki throws Gertie under the bus and she's like, well, Gertie told me that she told Lisa. And so they show a flashback to when Gertie and Kiki sat down to have a conversation. And they were trying to get Lisa to say who it was. But Lisa was like, I'm not a rat. I'm not going to tell on her. I'm just not. So then they kind of try to argue back and forth. And Lisa was like, honestly, it doesn't matter who told me. You're talking about me. And it hasn't even been a week since I buried my father. That's effed up. That's messed up. Like, like, that's not right. That's just not right. And here's the thing. I kind of feel some type of way about Lisa, because it's like, on one hand, if you really cared about your dad as much as you're crying right about now, you would have spent more time with him. You wouldn't have went to Milan. So I'm just like, ugh. But then we know the history with her father. But also it is kind of like, girl, why are you speaking about her when a daddy just died? But then, like I said, the world just doesn't stop when people's family members pass away. Like, life continues on. So people being mad at you continues to happen. People still are mad at you if they feel mad at you. But I do understand why Lisa is upset, why she's frustrated, and why she started crying. Because one, she feels uncomfortable because she doesn't really have anybody there for her. Two, she just buried her father. And three, she's arguing with Larsa, and she's used to Larsa always having her back, and she feels some type of way. But I was kind of over her making this scene where she's like, I'm leaving. I don't want to make this, but I'm leaving. So then Adriana was like, see, this is why I didn't want y'all to have this conversation. Like, this is why I didn't want y'all to have this conversation. And so Larsa is trying to get angry about the whole Gertie thing. But Alexia was like, girl, you were talking badly about her. So it really doesn't matter. To be honest, she was going to find out either way. So then Stephanie was like, wow. Somebody said they wanted to have a threesome with me, because when they did Truth or Dare, I think Julia said she wanted to have a threesome with her, Martina, and Stephanie. She said, she was like that. She was like, we're talking about dead people. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot going on for this to be my first introduction to the group. And so the last scene we see of the episode is Lisa crying and walking to her car. So yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. As always, remember to be bravely authentic. Definitely hop down in them comments below and subscribe, okay? And share your thoughts. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.